I was red pilled. Here's how I escaped the culty and misogynist online pipeline. Here's why this entire thing is stupid. And much like the adolescents Netflix documentary, who have little to no intended effect on what they hope will happen.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
I was red pilled. Here's how I escaped the culty and misogynist online pipeline. Oof, this is going to be good. Let's check it out. The Guardian, that's who this is presented by.
You start out, you're just like, hey, we just want to be better with dating. We just want better social skills, right? And then before you know it, you're talking about like women are dogs and you need to train them. When I was 17, I fell down the red pill pipeline and I managed to get myself out about 5 years later. The term red pill comes from the movie The Matrix. So it's basically saying that you have a truth or knowledge no one else seems to have. They would say that.
No, it's truth, but it doesn't mean that no one else understands it.
Society is gynocentric, which means that society caters to women, that women
Gynocentric. And up until recent, that has largely been the case. Chisha, are you going to keep on pausing it? No, I'm not. I'm going to play from now on.
Women only want the top 20% of guys. This isn't true. I would say at 17, I was socially awkward, very introverted. I felt I was ugly in high school. So I went on YouTube and looked up tips regarding dating women. It eventually led me down this deep, dark hole. It was able to kind of take the weight of blame off of myself. Like, actually, women are the ones in control. You're actually the victim in this situation. It's a very appealing thing to be the victim. I didn't view it as like, I've got to put them down type of thing. Like, it was saying that, hey, we understand why you feel bad. If you just learn what we have to give you, you'll be the one winning here soon. Before you know it, you're commenting, you're reading more of it, but at the same time, you're distrustful of the women around you. You're distrustful of people around you because you think they don't know what you know. It just degrades your own mental health. You start, without even realizing it, isolating yourself. I actually felt really embarrassed if people caught me, which kind of is a telltale sign that's probably you shouldn't be watching it. I first started questioning my beliefs when I went through a breakup. Me and a friend of mine, we went to a cabin party. I started crying in front of one of the girls who I liked there. This girl responded rather with like shame and disgust that the red pill told me that they would react. She was actually like really kind about it. And that kind of made me think, what if I'm wrong? And then afterwards, I was bar hopping.
So basically, we have a young guy here who was looking for ways to improve his social skills and dating and stumbled on the red pill, thought that women wouldn't accept him if he showed emotion. At least that was one of the strong beliefs that he held. And when he cried in front of a girl and showed his feelings, she opened up and showed him love, and he realized, oh, wow, the red pill is wrong about everything. Here's why this entire thing is stupid. And much like the adolescents Netflix documentary, who have little to no intended effect on what they hope will happen. You want young men to be less toxic, and I agree, I also want that. I also saw a few things that I would call toxic. But the reason why this is stupid is because you're not even addressing the real issues concerning young men. You're not asking the real questions. Why is it that young men were attracted to that content that you call toxic? That's what needs to be addressed straight on, but they won't do that. Why? Because it will expose that maybe this was a response to feminism. Now, if you go search The Guardian and the word misogyny, here you have all these other articles like why the manosphere clicked with young men. Another article here released on March 19th, 2025 says beyond Andrew Tate and the imitators who help promote him or whatever. They just have a bunch of these typical articles that you'd expect. But they don't ask the real questions. They just label every male empowering platform as toxic and misogyny. Instead of realizing that this generation of men has grown up with online dating, and it is true that a small majority of men on those apps do receive the majority of likes and attention. And yes, that doesn't necessarily mean that women only find the 20% of men on those apps attractive, but it does pose a question of, okay, how can I improve my attraction on these apps? And so they go out to learn more on how to do exactly that. Photo quality, how to approach. She talked about pickup there, which definitely has its issues. I think if you're going to label something a cult, or some form of misogyny, you first need to start with, why are young men attracted to what you have labeled a cult? That's where you have to start. Then you have to ask yourself, is there any truth to what these young men may be struggling with? Could it be that they're hearing constantly online about how they need to earn enough money to pay all the bills, and how their only value that they bring to a relationship is their wallet? And so they're attracted to men who promote exactly that, which I don't agree with, by the way. And I definitely do think there are some toxic values embraced within male spaces. But if you're just going to say, oh, they're a cult, they hate women, then you've already lost the plot, because those men are still going to have to go into the real world and deal with the same exact issues that led them to change, some of them for the better and some of them also for the worse. Before we get back into the video, a quick word about the sponsor of this channel, fathershaverights.com. At fathershaverights.com, one of our expert attorneys explains that drafting a prenup without the right experience is risky. If done wrong, the courts could invalidate it. That's why, as a future husband, you need to know how to pick the right attorney. The truth is, most experienced family law attorneys handle multiple prenups every week, and the demand only keeps growing. Click the link pinned to the top of the comment section to take the first step in securing your marriage the right way.
With a group of guys, and a few of them were red pilled. It was the first time actually meeting other red pill guys, and I could just kind of see how bitter and angry they were. There was this one guy, and he was trying to do pickup techniques. It was obvious that the girls weren't liking it at all, but he kept getting more and more aggressive. I'm like, is this how I see the world? And it kind of disgusted
They're aggressive.
me. I feel very guilty and ashamed, because it's just like, you really thought that, man? Like, this is totally unnuanced. Reason I say it's compared to a cult, they don't like outsiders. They don't like outside thought. A lot of the comments started also sounding the same too. There was no original thought. There's a lot of, you guys make me feel like I'm at home, complaining about women. Reappeal the 19th. That's the amendment that allows women to vote. There was a lot of rage. I have a mom. I have women friends. So it would be kind of like, I don't want to take away their rights. And then over time,
that's the same on any platform. If you go to a platform that caters to more conservative views, then you're going to see the same type of, like, liberals are crazy, so on and so forth. If you go on a platform that embraces more liberal views, you're going to see the people in the comments calling the people that they disagree with fascists and Nazis and so on and so forth. It's just human beings.
Time they got really disgusting. I don't feel comfortable saying some of the other stuff I saw. Just vile, misogynistic comments. That was another thing that helped me realize my beliefs in the red pill were wrong. When I first started to decide to actively stop watching red pill content, it was like flooding my feed. I would just click not interested, not interested. But regardless, they just kept appearing over and over. So yeah, it took me roughly about a year. I'm on ex-red pill forum.
It took you a year to cleanse your feed, bro? Come on, bro.
To help other people out like I would have helped me out. Helping others too is kind of maybe a way of like rectifying it. So something I wish that someone would told me when I was in the red pill: not everyone who tells you that you're right is your friend. I feel like content creators in the red pill, they don't believe sincerely what they say, and they're only saying it to get money and time out of you. Feminism is not bad. It's required in today's society. Also, men and women have different preferences, and sometimes you won't meet them. That's nothing personal. I think community is the solution for this. The isolation and self-involved nature of these is what's leading people down these rabbit holes. There are still lots of men, especially young men, who are being introduced to these philosophies. And if I can avoid anyone from feeling the loneliness and rage and isolation I felt when I was that young, that's a win. You start.
All right. Again, stupid video. And I've said this about the past adolescence situation and series. It's dumb. And it'll continue to be ineffective if you're not willing to have the real conversations. If you're not willing to ask, well, how about misandry? Do men experience that online? And what did the landscape look like before media was decentralized? Did men feel like they could speak? I know this is very much attached to the current political climate. You got to ask yourself, do men feel more free now? Or do they feel like they had a muzzle on them before? Did you like them better that way? It's ludicrous to think that hitting the gym, improving yourself, and learning to properly date in itself is toxic. It's also crazy to assume that learning about female nature and male nature is toxic. Now, should you be careful what values you embrace and listen to? Yes. What I would define as toxic comes down to, what do you think your purpose for that practice is? For example, is your purpose for dating just to sleep with as many women as you can to go around sleeping with women and racking out bodies. To me, based on my values, that I would define as toxic, because I'm also someone who identifies as Christian. Now, I don't expect you to live the way I live. I don't expect you to embrace my values. And I think people just naturally are drawn to people who they're interested in, whether they get a little bit of value for them or whether their values align with them as closely as possible. My only problem with this is there's never a talk about the women who embrace gold digger culture. I mean, you literally heard him say, they say that women are dogs, when the reality is the most known saying goes, men are dogs. And when men were dogs, it was okay. And listen, as I've gotten older, a lot of my perspectives have fine tuned. And so I don't want to take away from this gentleman's growth. And if this is the perspective he wants to embrace, then good for him. You know, maybe he was in a very toxic environment. But I don't think people will take this very seriously, or the men who you're talking to will take this very seriously. And this message is just in general to anybody who may agree with this. It will never be taken seriously when you can sit there and say, oh yeah, men who view women just strictly as sexual objects are toxic, but you're not saying the same thing to women who look at men as only success objects, only wallets, purely for financial gain. When's the last time you saw any one of these publications say the rise in Shir 7 304 culture is getting out of hand, or we've got to slow down with the OnlyFans stuff? And by the way, these are the same people who would go against anybody who embraces a faith that believes in traditional dynamics within the relationship. I'm not saying male platforms can't improve and do better. I've looked at my content sometimes and said, okay, you know what? I can improve and be more nuanced with the way I provide information. But The Guardian in this situation and series like Adolescence, all that stuff is just disingenuous and all propaganda. Not going to change a thing. The stats are still coming. The largest group of marriageable single women are ahead of us if the men are the only people who are going to be villainized by this message.
And to the guy who said he got himself out of that toxic masculinity cult on the internet, y'all, when they showed some of the comments on the screen that these men be talking about in these comment sections, I genuinely could not believe it. I was baffled, terrified. And it's it makes so much sense with the way that men act in society. They just gotta be big macho, and they gotta show their dominance and be aggressive toward women. For some context, when you think about your For You page or your Explore page or the algorithm, if you watch a video about cats and giraffes, you're gonna see 10 more videos about cats and giraffes. When these guys get curious and watch one of these videos, that content gets pushed to them just like anything else. And so if they're not clocking it immediately that, hey, this is changing the way I'm thinking, it's scary, because all you have is people in the comment sections encouraging it, and they're just encouraging each other and saying the craziest stuff ever, and they're all agreeing with each other, and it's so scary that this even exists. Kudos to that guy for getting himself out. I wish more men would just acknowledge that it's not okay, but it's so scary.
Red pill content is extremely predatory on the minds of young men. Something I don't think a lot of people realize is that when your brain is not fully developed and you find yourself in these, I'm gonna call it cults, these cult-like settings where people are not teaching you accountability, they're not talking about that rejection is just a part of life, you're going to face hundreds, thousands of times of rejection. And a lot of times all that is just redirection into finding your way and where you should be. But you have to see it like that. And I saw this video where this young man was talking about how he was deep down the red pill hole. And, once what kind of shook him out of it was some of the conversations were getting very scary about women. And it was alluding to the maltreatment and even potentially violence being perpetuated is what I gathered, because it is something that we see. And as a mother of sons, not a boy mom, but as a mother of sons, as well as I have an amazing daughter, it's always in the back of my mind, what type of tribe will my sons find themselves a part of, and to what level will they be seeking community? Now, one, I'm being extremely intentional about creating community and showing them what that looks like in real time. And two, I don't play. I will matter of fact to go upside their heads if anything fishy is going on. Not to get off track, but something that I will tell people is you have to keep raising your sons. You cannot let your sons raise themselves. And a lot of times that's what we see. We see once a boy gets to a certain age, the parent just lets them sprout. You cannot do that. It's dangerous, and you leave them vulnerable to the streets, to red pill, to all of these things. So, just my thoughts.
Hey guys, as always, I appreciate you checking out yet another episode of the Coffee Pod. To my currently engaged or soon to be married men, if you need a prenup and would like a guide that shows you how to get a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement, hit the link pinned to the top of the comment section and access your guide at fathershaverights.com today.